Welcome again to another session of the 18th Annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment Virtual Conference. I'm Bob Hales. I'm your moderator. Don't forget, this year we're sponsored by the Journal of Educators Online, JEO. It's a referee journal with a lot of interesting articles dating back to 2004. You can check it out. Just go to thejeo.com. We have with us Linda Nilsson. And Linda is the founding director emerita of the Office of Teaching Effectiveness and Innovation at Clemson University. Go Tigers. She also directed teaching centers at Vanderbilt University and the University of California, Riverside. And was also a sociology professor at UCLA. And she has authored or co-authored a veritable library of books. It'd take half your time for me to read them all, but really excellent. And Linda's going to talk about specifications grading, reclaim your time, sanity, and love of teaching. So, Linda, all yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Bob. It's really a pleasure to have been invited to be here. I am thrilled to talk to you folks. This is not about online learning, but specifications grading is perfectly compatible. So here are the outcomes for you. You're going to be able to summarize new evidence on why you should consider using this new alternative grading system, specifications grading, or specs grading, as I like to call it. You're going to be able to articulate and apply criteria for evaluating a grading system. You're going to be able to explain how specs grading works and implement the system in whole or in part in your own courses. This was the cover of the first edition, Specifications Grading, Restoring Rigor, Motivating Students, and Saving Faculty Time. And it does all those things, and there's more evidence for it now. This is the second edition, which just came out. It's 2026 copyright. And this is the one with a lot of the data that I'm going to be talking about today. What's different about this one, aside from all the new data, is the fact that specifications grading is also develops career competencies, which is a wonderful thing, and students, of course, love that. So, the first edition was based on only on 17 pilot faculty at Clemson University, and they were using specs grading in their courses, and 7 faculty authors on pass-fail grading, not pass-fail courses, but pass-fail gradings of assignments and tests. Now, the second edition, there were 21 survey respondents, 100 authors of 44 research articles, and 16 creators of web-posted videos. It all added up to 120 faculty teaching 120 different courses evaluating specs grading. Now, if you add 21 plus 100 plus 16, you don't get 120. What you of respondents or people that the faculty using specs grading. Okay, so these were the open-ended research questions. Of course, I asked, what changes did you make to specs grading? But I was mainly interested in the quality. If I ask you about did the quality of your students' work change? What effects did it have on your students' motivation? How did your students seem to feel about the grading system, and what effects did specs grading have on the time you spent grading? And additionally, do you think that specs grading better prepares your students for workplace culture? And if so, how? So let's look at the results, because this way you'll 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 be interested in finding out more about specs grading. There are 100 courses of the 120 courses had data. 96 courses, 96%. The faculty said that there was higher motivation among the students after they switched to specs grading. That's amazing. Even I was blown away by those results. And the four courses with no change. Well, in one case, one class, the students never grasped specs grading. It's not their fault. And in three courses, the students arrived extremely motivated. So there couldn't be much of a change in that. How about the quality of student work? I mean, if students are more motivated, shouldn't they do better work? 111 of the 120 courses had data on this, and 101 courses, that's about 91%, had showed higher quality student work after switching to spec. 10 courses that got the system. But in a lot of the cases in these 10 courses, the students worked harder. So that's great. That's great. Okay, what about faculty time reductions? The faculty spent much less time actually grading and almost no time dealing with grade complaints. And my co-author, Joe Pikowski, he had 1,386 students over 7 semesters. Only 5 students protested a grade in any way. So that's like nothing. So, you're saving time on that. Where there was an additional time required, which of course transitioning before the first term that the faculty used specs grading. But this was only the very first time. Okay, so this wasn't like every single time they were using specs grading in any way, shape, or form. Uh, some faculty spent seriously additional time assessing revisions, but that's because they allowed many, many more than I recommend. So we've got revisions built into the system, but a limited number of revisions because the whole idea is to save you time and also to get the students to do it right the first time, right? You're not asking them to rewrite the discipline. You're just asking them to do an assignment that they are prepared to do if they've been doing their work. Now, a lot of the faculty wound up providing more feedback to their students, but they did that voluntarily. They didn't have to do this because with specs grading, you'll see that the feedback is built into the system. It's built into the way you set things up. Now, what do students think? There were 104 courses with data of the 120. Most of the students, the vast majority of students, had positive reactions. Only in 20 courses did a minority have negative reactions, and this was mostly at the beginning of the semester when they didn't understand what was going on yet. Later they did. And there was only one course where a majority had negative reactions, and the all that the faculty member could say was, well, it seemed that they were too habituated to points. And this system doesn't use points. So, what did they like most, the students like most about specs grading? The opportunity to revise unsatisfactory work, clear expectations, and lower stress for them. And they felt they had control over their grade. They enjoyed focusing more on learning and not worrying about their grade because they knew how to do things correctly. And that's pretty amazing, isn't it? Okay, prepping students for employment, specs grading and employers use the same performance evaluation metrics. Furthermore, students have to monitor their progress the same way you do at the workplace, and students have to demonstrate competencies in specs grading. in the exams, in the job interviews, in the assignments, and workplace products, workplace products, just like workplace products, because we're in the workplace, you don't get grades. You're not necessarily told how to revise it. You might get one revision, and that's what grading allows you. Actually, there are multiple revisions, but usually people don't use them multiple opportunities on one assignment. So when you look at it, like there's so many exams, like licensing exams, bar exams, uh, they're graded quote, pass, fail, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. They have to jump over or they don't pass. Job interviews, you either do well or you don't. And same thing with workplace products. Now, criteria of an ideal grading system. We don't think about how to rate grading systems, but there are ways to do it. First of all, a grading system should uphold high academic standards, and I think you'll see how specs grading does that. It needs to reflect students' achievement of outcomes because you can relate the grades in the course to the outcomes that the students have achieved. Let students know what's expected of them. Motivate students to learn and do excellent work. Well, we saw that. Make students feel responsible for their grades. They do. There's very little student faculty conflict, very, very little, and almost no grading protests. Student and faculty stress is reduced. And students, by the way, use the feedback that faculty give them because it's not used to justify taking off points. It's actually used to help you do a better job with all your work, actually. And so, yeah, students use this feedback because it's done in a spirit of good faith. It fosters high level cognitive development and creativity, saves you time, and fosters high rater agreement because it's a lot easier to disagree on the number of points something should get versus whether it meets all the specifications that you set out. So anyway, which criteria does our current grading system perform well or perform poorly, right? Think about which criteria does perform well or perform poorly. Which criteria does specs grading perform well or poorly? Well, specs grading performs well on all those criteria. Now, specs grading is a whole new gestalt on grading. And this picture, depending on how you look at it, it's either a woman looking in the mirror, probably from the 19th century, doing her, I don't know, boudoir or whatever. Uh, or it's a skull. And so you can see that's what I mean by a new gestalt. So pass-fail grading of assignments and tests. And if you don't like the idea of fail, that's satisfactory, unsatisfactory. And tests, by the way, are passed at a B level, 80%. If you want to make it 81%, 85%, I mean, there are people who have done this sort of grading that students have to get an A. They have to eventually do such quality work that they get an A. But I'm not asking you to do that. Now, what are these specifications that I've mentioned, or what the grading is named for? They are a list of all the things that that students have to do on an assignment. That students have to do on an assignment. So there might be 5 things, there might be 7 things, there might just be one thing that, for instance, for reading compliance assignments, uh, it might just be, students answer the question or they do what they're supposed to do, what they've been told to do. For instance, they might be told, okay, in this particular article, summarize or in 100 words, whatever you want. But it's a good idea to set some kind of a word range or a minimum number of words in an assignment. So maybe it's just that did you answer the 3 questions that I asked you? Did you attempt the problems in good faith? Did the work follow the directions? That's simple. That's all you need. Or the specs may be more complex. For instance, a description of the characteristics of a good literature review, or the contents of each section of a proposal, or the organization of whatever type of paper or report you're assigning. And the organization might be section by section, even paragraph by paragraph. Tell them what to do. This is teaching as well as assessing. So anyway, complete satisfactory work. And oh, by the way, if you want it to be on time, if you insisted it be on time, you could make that a criteria as well for passing for satisfactory work. Um, and so that kind of work receives credit. And anything less than that, anything that's missing any spec at all, you've laid them all out. Students had the chance to ask you questions about them, and they will ask questions because the stakes are high. We've gotten into the habit of giving very low stakes assignments, so nothing really matters to the students. Well, and the other thing nothing really matters to the students is partial credit, because students slide by on partial credit. Well, with this system, you cannot slide by. Slide by. It's all or nothing in terms of the credit that you get or last minute sloppy work. Now, I know we don't have the time for you to do this here, but if we did, I would ask you to select one graded assignment that you give to either your individual students or to groups and convert your directions or grading rubrics into specs or specifications for pass-fail grading. People have generally found this fairly easy to do, especially if they've been using rubrics, because all you have to do is look at really the top 2 categories of your rubric, or just the top category, because oftentimes we don't demand that much in our rubrics. And so if we're just demanding really in the back of our minds, B work, well, then you just use the top category of the things that are important to you. But you just have to write these specs ever so carefully. They must describe exactly what features in the work you're going to look for. And in fact, most of our assignments, undergraduate anyway, follow some kind of a template or a formula. So you just lay out that formula. And it might just be a formula that we have in our own minds or in our own hearts. Fine. Just lay that out. Just lay that out. So anyway, so that's what specs are all about. Now, the second element of specs grading, the tokens. And we're talking really here about virtual tokens. We're not talking about something like something concrete. And so that's why this no problem online. Now you have to keep track of them, but students have to keep track of their own. So anyway, well, they're like a get out of jail free. One token to redo an unsatisfactory assignment or test. It's like a makeup exam. So they use a token for that. They can also use a token for uh, well, anything that you want, but a chance for an extension, for instance, 24 hour, 48 hour, whatever you want to set it as. Um, And so you've got tokens here buffering the riskiness of no partial credit and giving students second chances, which they should have. And if you want, you can reward students who don't use their tokens with some kind of, something at the end of the course. Or maybe they don't use many tokens. If you want, you can have students earn tokens during the semester as well. But I recommend three tokens to start, not a slew of them, because this is what some faculty got in trouble with, that then they had to, there was too much work for them to do, when they just allowed literally unlimited revisions. And what will happen? Students will get sloppy. If you allow them to get sloppy, they will get sloppy. If you don't allow them to get sloppy, and you actually give them stakes, high stakes in your assignments, then they won't get sloppy. They really won't. Now, how do you get final letter grades out of this? Well, there's this third element to this as well. Now, some people, they still want to stay with the point system, but most people want to get away from it. I'm just letting you know. So if you want to stay with the point system, and this is, by the way, one way that you can ease into this is you can start with specs grading using the point system and then drop it the next time that you're using it. But anyway, each pass, test, or assignment, and then the number of points at the end determines your A's, B's, C's. Okay. You can do that, or you can go to the third element of specs grading, which are bundles. Some people call them modules, whatever. They're a module or a bundle is a group of past assignments and tests linked to a final grade. Students choose their grade, but they've got to perform up to their grade. And so they might go, oh, yeah, I want an A. But then later on, they realize, well, I don't want to do the work for it. I don't have the time. This isn't an important enough course for me. And, that's up to the students to make that decision. Now, bundles and course grades. You get higher grades for mastery, for demonstrating mastery of more content and or more skills, or more complex or advanced or higher level content and or skills, or both. It's that simple. And it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You ought to have to do more for an A than you do for a B. And this is the simplest four bundle model that you can have. For a D, students have to complete only the easiest and most basic bundle, okay? For a C, they have to complete that bundle plus a more challenging one. For a B, they have to complete these two bundles and an even more challenging third one. And for an A, they have to complete four bundles, where for the fourth is the most challenging one. That's a very, very simple system. So you have pass-fail grading of assignments and tests, where passing is 80%. You have tokens and you have bundles. Handout that was made available to you. And the first 2 pages is an example of specs for really, it's an assignment that goes on for an entire semester, that goes along with the main assignment. This is a complementary assignment because the professor wants the students to learn to work in a group. So that's what these questions are all about. So throughout the semester, students have to answer all of these questions, and they have to answer it within the word range that is provided for each group of questions. There is task 1, task 2. Task 2 is after the first experience working in a team. Task 3 is they're well into the task now, and so on. Now, I want you to also look at page 3, where this is an illustration of grading only on more hurdles, only on more knowledge, more skills. And it shows that essentially you have to be able to do the same thing. This has to do with um, a plant medicine course. And what they have to do is the only thing that's different, they have to learn the same level of knowledge and apply the same level of skills but in each case for each grade. But for a C, they only do a few plants. For a B, they do more plants, and for an A, they do still more plants. So it's simply a matter of more knowledge, more skillation grading only on higher hurdles, where this is in a computer science course, and with the professor has different assignments for C, different assignments for A, different for ones for B, different ones for A, where the A ones are the most difficult assignments, right? And so everybody does just 6 assignments, but which ones are they going to choose? Which 6 are they going to do? So, and it might be that the assignments for an A might take a little longer, but basically the issue is the for the higher grades, students are doing more advanced work. The on page 4, you'll see an illustration of grading on both more and higher hurdles, or more and higher level skills and knowledge. And you could read that one here. The main thing I want you to notice here is the paragraph at the end. This is a creative assignment that is being given. It involves, yeah, outside research, but students have to exercise creativity in communicating their explanation in a novel modality. For instance, a half-an-hour video documentary, a series of public service TV commercials, a set of informational brochures, a research proposal requesting funding, or, and that's just for individuals. If students who want to work as a group can stage a well-documented debate or educational play for about a half an hour. So, this, they're just these parameters, for instance, like half an hour video documentary. There's a little bit more information that the professor gives on this, but not that much. So, and as long as they do this within the parameters that are provided, they pass. That assignment is fine. And so you can have very creative assignments in specs grading, and you don't have to fret about them because you've laid out what the specs are, and it might just be the length. It might just be the length. Okay. Um, oh, there are more illustrations here. There's a hypothetical illustration of grading on both more and higher hurdles using Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive operations. That's on page 5, where to get a C, all that students have to demonstrate are knowledge on comprehension of the material. For a B, they have to demonstrate not only knowledge and comprehension, but also application and analysis. And for an A, they have to do everything for the B, but also demonstrate, uh, well, synthesis and evaluation. Synthesis. So, anyway, there is yet one more example on grading and learning outcome section of a hypothetical syllabus where the course uses specifications grading. And you can see the grades are sort of They're with learning outcomes. The learning outcomes are provided within all the assignments that you are being done for either a D, a C, a B, or an A. So, yeah, that you know, for a D, for instance, past three midterms and a final with total average score of at least give minimal that you will give minimum recognition level mastery of most of the course material. That's not much, right? For a C, for a C, there's more going on because there are additional assignments, each a typewritten outline or concept map of each reading assignment on the day that it is due. And so there that the you first of all you've read all the assigned material thoroughly and you've left the course with a pretty decent mastery of it, including the ability to recognize and explain it. For a B, you have to do everything that you would for a C, but you also are doing a learning log where you were finding out how you master the material, how you were learning the material. And so there you were leaving the course with the ability to learn more of the material. So this would be great for a course early in a major, for instance. And for an A, they have to do everything for B, but they also have to solve a fuzzy problem that will and this is the only group assignment that there is. I know that we like to give group assignments and then we get some crummy work from some groups, right? Well, here we have only the students going for an A doing the group work, so we will get good group work. Okay, so, but there's plenty of flexibility in here. You can have any number of bundles. Perhaps some people have had specialized bundles for pluses and minuses in the grades. You can have any number of tokens, but I caution you that three is generally enough. You can use a hybrid model. You can use specs grading for this assignment, traditional grading for that, standard based grading for something else. I mean, you if you want to, and that way you don't have to go completely into this because it is it's a big gestalt. Now, grades. In terms of student choices, students like the flexibility as well. They can choose their grade, choose their workload, and choose their outcomes. Now, this business about the outcomes, students might not, fully appreciate this, but if this is courses is in their major, they might be very interested in some of the higher level outcomes that your course is promising because they're going to continue taking courses in this subject matter. But anyway, the workloads, as I said, if they don't have the time to give your course everything that it should have, that is not a problem, right? They can choose. Okay, so I'm just, you know what? All I need is a C. I'm a graduating senior. This is a course out of my major. I left it for the end and, whatever. And so fine, I will go for a C. And you can respect that. And students know that you will respect that because it's their choice for whatever reason. There's also a menu model. It's a variation on this. Uh, what you can do is you can set out a bunch of bundles and you can say, well, for a C, choose any four. For a B, choose any five. For an A, choose any six. The only problem with that is that you can't then marry those grades with outcomes. Departmental level, that the chair, the dean, or whoever is in charge, is not going sorry about this, will not have to reevaluate the students and what outcomes they can achieve. It's built into the courses. They've already achieved those outcomes in the courses, so there's no need for any extra assessments of the students for accrediting agencies. There's plenty of flexibility in token use. Students can choose how they want to use it depending on the options that you give them. And there can easily be alternative ways to satisfy the assignments in terms of like the topics, in terms of the media or modalities that we saw in that psychology course, and in terms of the work settings. Uh, some students do not want to work in groups. Fine, don't force them. There will be plenty of other occasions that they've been working in groups. These days, students start working in groups early in elementary school. So groups are nothing new to them at all. So just keep that in mind that you don't have to give them group work experience. Now, again, if we had the time, I would ask you to begin to create a bundle of assignments and tests. And I would recommend that you start by creating a bundle for your lowest course grade, whether that be a C or a D, and another for your highest, and then another for your highest course grade, and then create bundles for middle grades. That just makes your life a little bit easier. Um, and I also want to make you aware that in your handout packet, on page 7 and 8, there is making the transition contrast between traditional grading and specs grading, but it shows you how to go from traditional grading to specs grading. Like, for instance, standard grading policy and syllabus needing little or no explanation or justification, with more points leading to higher course grade. And adapted to specs grading, you really have to explain and sell specs grading to students because they're not going to understand it, not initially. But there are all these ways that you can sell specs grading to them. And you want to emphasize the choice and control they will have over their course grade. And again, students love that part of specs grading. So and then it talks about how to convert assignments and tests, standard assignments and tests that you have in the traditional grading system, into grades, grouping assignments and tests into 3 or 4 bundles or modules that entail different amounts of work. So it gives you some ideas about doing that. And multi-level rubrics, you can develop specs from the top or top 2 levels of your rubrics. You can elaborate the specs, making them as specific as unambiguous as possible. You grade all the assignments, pass, fail, or credit, no credit, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. Um, and your opportunities to revise work for higher grade or more points. But of course, with specs grading, they have to exchange a token for that. Well, anyway, so that's all there. And then you have a list of the last 4 pages, you have a list of where specs grading is being used. That these are what I know. I want to get to this concluding reflection, and I want you to use the chat box for this. What's the most important thing you're taking away with you from this session? What's the most important thing you're taking away with you? So I'm sort of getting you to review the session. So I will give you a minute. We definitely have a minute for you to think about that and write that down.
Yeah.
Giving students
Let's see if they're
options.
paying attention.
What's that?
Let's find out if they were paying attention.
Yes, let's find out if they're paying attention. You will be graded on your reflections. No, you won't. But yes, giving students options, which students really love. I mean, and so don't you worry, by the way, about your student evals or ratings, whatever you want to call them. Uh, Students really like specs grading, and they prefer it to traditional grading.
I think we have to give Alexander all the points that were available.
Yes, yes, you get full credit. You're the only one getting full credit so far. But see what you're saying. Come on, Deb, Donald,
Ah,
this
there
is an
we go.
interesting approach. Yes, my book goes into a lot more depth in the grading process and yes, the theories of learning behind it and the theories of motivation behind it as well. Yes, and if anybody's got questions, uh, I'm open to answer any of them. Because oftentimes, yes. Oh, thanks. Oh, yes, yes. Please do get a copy. Please do. And I think if you Google specs grading, that you can get some uh a short synopsis of the system too. But yeah, the real details are in the book. People have generally found it pretty easy to set out specs, but once they get their heads straight about what they want the students to do in the assignment, you might ask yourself, why demonstrate? And that's a great way to approach getting your specs. When in doubt, look at your learning outcomes. Why are you giving this assignment? What do you want to learn about your students from it? Any other questions?
Yes, not, but
Okay.
you're right. You've got to be precise about what you want, what the objectives are, what
Yes.
exactly are you testing, all of that. And it's easy for faculty to kind of just be sloppy with it,
Yeah.
but then it makes it more difficult for the students too.
Yes, indeed. And again, if you want to, link your bundles to outcomes that the students are achieving at the same time, uh, gosh, gee, that is wonderful. Now I know that you might not be required to do that, in which case you can use, for instance, the menu model. But it's great when you can link those outcomes and you know exactly what the students are able to do. Because right now, when a student gets a C or well a B, even an A, you don't know what they can do. They don't know what they can do either. All they know, oh, I got a B, I got a. But the way we grade now, those grades mean nothing, which is why accrediting agencies never look at them. They could care less about that. They know anyway. So I guess I'm finished. I'm finished, Bob. And so I'm finishing on time.
Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And
Oh, you bet.
it was really excellent being able to drill into this and make sure
Yeah.
we're doing
Yeah.
what we want to do and what we think we're doing, and making it
Uh-huh.
easier for the students as well. So thank you so
Yes, yes,
much.
yes. Yes, you're ever so welcome. And I don't want to say happy grading because that's like a contradiction in terms. But with specs grading, it almost is happy grading,
Yeah.
because it's quick and easy. You don't have to give feedback. The feedback is built in to if they did all the specs, they did everything they were supposed to.